thing I want to mention here to the Muslim community, that when it comes to mental illness in the community, in the Muslim community, it is a real issue. A lot of people, they try to dodge these questions or even these situations by kind of pushing them under the carpet and consider them to be, oh, the Muslim community, alhamdulillah, doesn't have these things. They don't go through these kind of like situations. Yes, we do. So we have to acknowledge that, yes, we do go through the difficult situations. Members of the Muslim community do suffer, a variety, which it's a scope of mental illnesses, honestly. So we have to admit that it happens. We acknowledge that. That's number one. Number two, going through a situation where people suffer from mental illness doesn't mean there's a problem in their faith and their Iman. Because a lot of people, they think when you go through, let's say, a severe condition, for example, of an anxiety, to the level that they might feel that they're becoming right now frozen in time, that means they don't believe in Allah Azza wa Jalla, or their Iman is not strong, and so. No, not necessarily, really. It's not necessarily, that's not true. They're human beings after all. No matter how much we try, we go actually through some difficulties and so on. So eventually I want you to know that's not a sign of weak Iman or weak faith. It might be for some, but not necessarily to you. So therefore we have to separate between these two issues, inshallah ta'ala. Now the third thing is that this is a very, very serious subject. Therefore, if you're going to talk to somebody about a mental health issue, you talk to the experts. And just for your knowledge, the Imam is not one of them. So don't go and make an appointment with the Imam. I want to talk to you about my severe depression, for example, or bipolar situation, or this or that, or whatever that they go through. Now, you need to go to the Imam for spiritual maybe support, or you know that you're going with a counselor on the side, but I need the Imam's, kind of like help as well to keep me, inshallah, on track and so on. That's good. But don't depend on the Imam primarily for an issue that other professionals who specialize in the field, they can help you with, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. And on top of that, obviously, we need to, as a community, acknowledge that, give the people the support, inshallah ta'ala, and make a lot of dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them. Wallahu a'lam.
And one that's coming up a lot more recently. One thing is that you can't just pray away a mental illness. A lot of people think that way, and it's wrong. And to burden someone else with that is also not appropriate. You don't just pray it away. You don't just make dua and it goes away. You have to treat it. And treating it is a form of ibadah. It's a form of worship. A lot of people feel ashamed to get help when they have a mental illness because they feel like it's a weakness in their own Iman, a weakness in their own faith, like Sheikh Yasser said. And if I seek help from someone in getting over that mental illness, then somehow I'm losing out the reward of struggling with it and dealing with it on my own. That's not true, because the mental illness has, it's a hindrance for yourself. It hurts you, it hurts people around you. And when you seek to cure that so that you can be a better Muslim, be a better child to your parents, a better sibling, a better spouse, whatever it may be, that's actually ibadah. That's actually an act of worship. That's actually putting aside putting something else or someone else before you, and let that be your motivator. Don't be guilted into not going and seeking treatment for these things. And then lastly, as a community and as a society, one thing that being involved with people, more involved with someone as a community leader, whether you're an Imam or a counselor or director, like, you tend to realize how many people just have serious issues. And unfortunately, as a community, it's like you look at someone who has a physical illness. If someone's walking around with a physical illness, you feel a sense of sympathy for them. But when someone's walking around, or someone has a mental illness, and it's very clear and manifest, we treat them with contempt. And as a community, we have to remember that sometimes these actions are out of someone's control. And a lot of times, by the way, the internet is exposing just how bad it is in our community, because you can see people pouring their heart out, writing things online. And you don't have to be a doctor to diagnose that sometimes. It's like, it's very clear that there's a lot going on there. But hey, you know what? I like what this person said here, so I'm going to go ahead and retweet that and share it. Great job. It's like, you do realize, like, that's textbook right there. And what are we doing as a community to help that person? So I would just appeal to all of us to be a little bit more compassionate. When someone acts strange and out of character, your first instinct should not be to diagnose them, but it should be to reach out to them and see if you can help them. And often helping them means giving them the encouragement to go get help for the specific thing that they need help with, and not feel guilty and not feel shamed and judged for doing so. But we have to do something about this, inshallah, and as a community show support for people when they act out and when they fail to go and get treatment for these things. It is rewardable, it is ibadah to do these things in order to be a better Muslim and a better and more capable person with everything else and everyone else that's around you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Hope this video was helpful for you. This may help others too, so please consider sharing, and we will bring more videos in the future, inshallah. So consider subscribing and you won't miss any. Jazakallahu khairan.